The year is 1862, and you are a general in the Union Army. 11 southern states have just seceded and joined the Confederacy and are now preparing for war against the United States government. How can you best subdue this territory? How can you send armies into the vast Confederacy to defeat armies and retake crucial cities? The question sounds difficult, to be sure. Yet there was one way for Union forces to move into Confederate territory that ended up being a crucial part of the Civil War. The key was rivers, which served as avenues of invasion into the South. And of course, what was the biggest and most important river for subduing the Confederacy? The Mississippi. Let's learn more about the Union effort to take the Mississippi River in 1862. As the biggest river in the United States, and one of the largest in the world, the Mississippi River has long dominated American history. Those expanding the country westward had to cross its waters, and its large number of tributaries made it a central collecting point for many important river cities and towns in the United States. Running directly through the center of the country, the Mississippi was the primary waterway for the Western Confederacy, bringing goods, commerce, and transportation to Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana. In 1861, at the start of the American Civil War, Union General-in-Chief Winfield Scott proposed a plan intent on strangling the Confederacy, gaining the nickname of the Anaconda Plan. Scott called for a blockade of southern ports, as well as for Union forces to seize the Mississippi River, strangling the Western Confederacy and cutting the South in two. While the Union blockade began in 1861, it was not until 1862 that a separate effort was made to seize the Mississippi River. In early February, Union forces began pushing into the Western Confederacy by using the large network of rivers. Brigadier General Ulysses S. Grant moved on Forts Henry and Donelson on the Tennessee and Cumberland rivers, capturing both and delivering huge victories for the Union cause. These battles were fought with ground forces and ironclad riverboats, which were powered by steam and threatened Confederate river defenses and fortifications, bringing an element of innovation to the fight. The same type of joint land and naval operations that succeeded at Forts Henry and Donelson would be the key for Union success on the Mississippi River as well. 60 miles south of Columbus, Kentucky, Confederates held Island No. 10. The island was located on a bend in the river, meaning that whoever controlled it could control who moved south on the Mississippi. It was near the southern edge of Missouri, where Kentucky's southern boundary met Tennessee's northern border. This was in many ways the Confederacy's main defense of the river, on the northern end of their territory. For Union forces to move south on the Mississippi, they first had to deal with Island No. 10. Moving against the island was Union Brigadier General John Pope and his Union Army of the Mississippi. Pope intended to push the Confederates out of the way to open up the northern end of the Mississippi to Union gunboats. Pope first tried to pry Confederates from the town of New Madrid, just west of Island No. 10. By mid-March, Confederates abandoned the town and moved to the fortifications on Island No. 10. Soon, with the help of gunboats commanded by Andrew Hull Foote, Union forces laid siege to the island and its defenders. In early April, 2 Union gunboats snuck past the island fortifications, enabling Union infantry to cross to the Tennessee side of the river, further strengthening their position and threatening the island. Soon, Confederate Brigadier General William McCall, who was then the commander of the island, was forced to surrender Island No. 10 and its garrison in early April, giving Union forces a huge victory and opening a large portion of the Tennessee River to Union gunboats. With the fall of Island No. 10, Union boats could continue south along the Mississippi, threatening Confederates over large portions of the waterway. In June, Union gunboats engaged Confederate boats at the Battle of Memphis. The Confederate Army had left Memphis after the fall of Corinth, Mississippi in May, leaving only a fleet of gunboats to defend the city. On June 6th, Union boats won a lopsided victory over these Confederate defenders, delivering Memphis to Union forces. The victory was so complete for Federals that the fighting at Memphis signaled the end of Confederate riverboats fighting on the Mississippi River. The river was now open as far south as Vicksburg, a strategic town in Mississippi that controlled passage of the river. Much like a pair of strong jaws, Union forces came at the Confederates on the Mississippi from both the northern and southern ends of the river. On the southern end of the river, there was no city more important in early 1862 than New Orleans, the largest city and port in the entire Confederacy. New Orleans was the southern gateway to the Mississippi, and it was the key to transporting goods from the river to the Gulf of Mexico. Thus, it was an extremely valuable military target. In April 1862, shortly after Island No. 10 fell hundreds of miles to the north, Captain David Farragut led a force against New Orleans. After fighting his way past the defenses on the mouth of the Mississippi River, Farragut forced the surrender of New Orleans officially on April 29, 1862. The fall of New Orleans was one of the most devastating losses of the war for the Confederacy, and as a result, Farragut was promoted to Rear Admiral in the U.S. Navy. After the fall of New Orleans, Farragut took his river flotilla north toward Vicksburg, where he tried to take the city but was unsuccessful. Farragut fell back and landed a force at Baton Rouge in Louisiana. Confederate General John C. Breckinridge led a force that attempted to drive Federals away from the city in the Battle of Baton Rouge in August 1862. Breckinridge's force was defeated, but Union troops soon fell back to New Orleans to secure the crucial port city, moving troops back to Baton Rouge later in 1862. Further up the Mississippi, in the fall of 1862, then Major General Ulysses S. Grant led a Union force in an attempt to seize the crucial river town of Vicksburg. Moving overland from southern Tennessee, Grant's men were harassed by Confederate raids that destroyed large quantities of Union supplies. In late 1862, a Union land and river attack at Chickasaw Bluffs was repulsed, ending Grant's first attempt to seize Vicksburg in failure. Grant would regroup and try again several more times in 1863, however, ultimately achieving success with the fall of Vicksburg on July 4, 1863. Throughout 1862, Union forces attacked Confederates on the Mississippi, both from the north and the south. Victories at places such as Island No. 10 and Memphis opened the river to Union forces as far south as Vicksburg. Similarly, Union successes at New Orleans and Baton Rouge opened the Mississippi from the south, as far north as Port Hudson, Louisiana. Thanks to Union leaders such as John Pope, David Farragut, and Ulysses S. Grant, the Confederacy had gone from controlling the entire Mississippi at the start of the year to only holding a small portion of it by the start of 1863. This was a tremendous success for Union troops, and it had demonstrated a remarkable ability to combine both Army and Navy forces to achieve military successes. The fleets of steam-powered gunboats assisted land forces in delivering some of the most important and yet overlooked Union victories of the entire Civil War.